Good morning, everyone. My name is Stefan Kalmund. I want to showcase to you a little bit how you could put 1 million shipping containers in your mobile phone. And let me start with a little analogy here. And one of my sons plays ice hockey, and from time to time, he just breaks those sticks. So the moment I actually want to buy a new ice hockey stick and I hit buy, I can track that package through its entire journey until the last mile. And we can do that with almost anything we can touch: food, electronics, clothes. In fact, the last miles have become so good that we can meet the driver at the door. And the reason for that is we have had mobile phones in our pockets for about 30 years and GPS in our cars, is that we created entire industries around the last mile. But what actually happens before the last mile? What about the 40 million shipping containers in the world? They're just boxes of steel, no power associated to it. Or the 6 million freight rail cars, just boxes of steel. And less than 2% of them are actually connected, smart, digitized. And this is where Nexxiot enters. And so logistic companies obviously can track their vessels, but not the shipping container. They can track the locos, but not the freight rail car. And we've all been exposed to it during the pandemic, when suddenly cargo ships couldn't unload in the ports of Hamburg or Long Beach or Rotterdam or Shenzhen, or ships got stuck like in the Suez Canal or can no longer pass the Panama Canal. Or think about, we heard about from Klaus Hummels earlier this morning, the geopolitical risks. You know, the traditional Silk Road through Russia, from Europe to China no longer works. So the war in the Middle East has an impact on certain routes. So those are some of the risks our supply chain needs to deal with every single day, and it impacts prices, and they usually go up. And I'm not even talking about, drug trafficking or human trafficking or vessels on fire, or, as we've recently seen, cargo ships being under attack. And unfortunately, we cannot just attach one of those Apple AirTags to a shipping container. It doesn't work. Whatever device you build needs to survive the heat of Saudi Arabia or the freezing temperatures of Sweden or the humidity of Singapore. This is in the world where the cargo is being moved, or the salt water of the South Atlantic Ocean. And in addition to that, devices also need to be legally approved for every country, every port, every industrial site where you actually want to move goods or where there are dangerous goods being handled. So what's our solution to it? And I just want to show you the kind of device we've created. Thank you, Philip. And the kind of device we've created. So we really wanted to build a GPS tracker which can survive those harsh conditions in the world. We wanted to build a GPS tracker which can survive for more than 8 years, no external power associated to it, and still send data in real time. We wanted to build a GPS tracker which is so good that it can not just collect the coordinates, but actually contextualize it. We find out everything surrounding a rail car or a shipping container, and that includes shocks or delays or people trying to tamper with a shipping container. But what does it actually, this is just a piece of hardware, what does it actually mean for our clients? And the moment you start bringing visibility to an asset fleet, you create almost like a Google map of logistics. And if you add on top of that a capability to interact very easily, whether it's chat style or any other way, to dive deep into that data, you can drill down on some of the costs. You can think about, how can I reduce, as an MSC or Maersk, my insurance premiums? How can I actually avoid accidents like we've seen here in the Gotthard Tunnel or in East Palestine in Ohio in the US when a rail car derailed? How can I reduce the CO2 consumption of my fleet? Or ultimately, how can I deliver better services to my clients. Let me tell you a little bit more about Nexxiot. So we've also been one of those companies who have been founded at the ETH here in Zurich. It took us probably 6 years to develop and test with around 200,000 railcars in 20 countries to really get this technology right. And there's a real hockey stick. Now, we're today in our third generation. We rolled out another 1 million shipping containers in the last 18 months. We took it from 20 countries to over 160 countries. And we created, what we would call 3 gigafactories, assembly sites around the world, one in North America, one in Asia, and one in Europe, to be really close to our client sites. And we're producing a little bit more than 100,000 devices a month. We're ready to double that capacity. 100,000 of those devices we're rolling out per month. And the reason for that is we want to grasp a majority of those possible connected assets. And what it does, we also heard Young Son speaking about infrastructure. This allows you to turn the existing infrastructure, existing shipping containers, existing rail cars, within minutes from a box of steel to a connected smart asset. And why are we quite far ahead? This is a small, humble Swiss company. We only have around 120 people, but we're probably number 1 or number 2 in the world at the moment when it comes to the kind of installations we have there. And one of the reasons is clearly the size of our installed base. A lot of people can build those boxes, but the size of the installed base is quite significant. And every month, we start, with every 100,000 devices we roll out, we start collecting more and more billions of data points. But we have also become really good. It's not just good enough to develop those devices, to produce them, but you have to become really good also in global rollouts. And we've just rolled out in the last 18 months Hapag-Lloyd globally, and that's like 450 ports around the world in some of the most exotic locations. It's not easy to install those devices from Saudi Arabia to Pakistan to Jebel Ali in Dubai to India, etc. You have to become really good in global rollouts in record times. And you only have a little bit less than a minute to clean the surface of a container, attach a device, take a picture, pair it, and from that moment, you see a dot on the map. But probably the third mode we've created is that we've been the driving force for innovation in this industry. So we were the first ones to develop a device with a solar panel so it could actually survive for more than 8 years. The first ones to certify it so it could actually work with dangerous goods. Think about all the oil and gas transports in the world. The first ones who could do over-the-air updates around the world also in some of those locations. The first ones to be able to handle, more than 1 million real-time assets moving around in one single platform, and then also taking it to a mass market level, because it makes a big difference if you produce 500 or 5,000 devices, a year or 1 million devices. But this is potentially just, the beginning. We're trying to do a couple of very large, big bets. We started 6 years ago with Swisscom. They're certainly one of our trusted partners. Last year, we bought 1 million SIM cards from them. If you put that into perspective of 8 million people in this country, it's pretty relevant. Last year, we announced a strategic partnership with Knorr-Bremse, the world market leader in brakes for trucks and rail cars. Again, our bet being there, sitting on most of the digital freight trains in the future in the world. And we just brought out the first products. We partnered with Deloitte, where Deloitte says, together with Nexxiot, we can actually create green lanes, if you think about ports, for fast processing of containers, because it can actually be proven that they've not been opened, they've not been tampered with for illicit goods. We partnered with Project 44, one of the largest data aggregators in the logistics space, where they're saying we can deliver better ETAs to our clients because we have real-time data. And if there are delays, we can actually say when they happened, why they happened, where they happened. And we just also announced We're also going into the last mile with autonomous cars in industrial sites. So imagine a device like this detects a shock on a rail car. It can automatically call one of those autonomous cars for close inspection, or you have at 3 o'clock in the morning in Antwerp, an unplanned door opening of a container. It can call one of those cars with a live video feed for an operator, which can sit anywhere in the world. So our ambition here is to create, the largest global network of connected, smart logistic assets. It's a multi-trillion industry, and we're investing millions together with our clients. But once you set that data free, once you turn a container from a box of steel into a smart asset, the possibilities are endless. And what it actually does to our clients, it forces them to rethink the kind of services they're offering, because clients now have access to that data. It also requires them to redesign their purposes, because you can no longer deny that you actually can control the CO2 consumption. So you have an active way of driving down empty runs CO2 consumption, or you can actively combat illicit trafficking in your shipping containers. And finally, what it does is also it helps our clients to rediscover in this geopolitical complex world how they want to move the goods. So if those last couple of minutes hopefully have ignited or put a little spark in your eyes, or created a provocative thought, or you have maybe an interesting service company who could really profit from all the data we're collecting, please come and find and challenge me. We're 3 people here. We have Sandra, our head of marketing and branding, and responsible for a lot of those partnerships. Philip, our CFO, here in the first row. And let me say, 1 or 2 words about, if you think about it from an investor's perspective, I forgot to mention we're highly profitable in the rail segment. We're generating quite significant growth on the ARR side. The hardware is really only an enabler to the value we're offering as a service. It's almost two asset classes you have to think about. It's an infrastructure asset class, because we're rolling out our devices, capital intensive, around the world. We're sitting on the strategically relevant assets in the world, but it's also very much a software AR growth business. So please come and find us over today or tomorrow. Thank you very much.